Good morning, Mindset community. Dr. Ellen here, coming to you today with your next Tire Talk. All right, I wanted to discuss a little bit about all of the fun colds and flus that are going on this season or that are coming up. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how to keep you healthy in this season, or as well if you do get an illness or you're fighting off some form of an infection, what you can need to be considering about your body during that time. So first off, every single process in your body requires water at the chemical level and at the molecular level. So it's really important when your body is working overtime to fight an infection that you have enough water. Now, water in itself is amazing for you, but if you're drinking a lot of it, your body tends to get into kind of like this flush mode where you're flushing out all of these negative waste components, which is great, but then as well, sometimes we're not retaining as much as we might need during that time. So there's some research and evidence that talks about adding a little bit of a pinch of salt to your water, not even enough that you can taste the salt, that's not the point, but just to get it so that you retain a little bit of water for some of those cellular processes can actually be quite helpful. Now, take into consideration your medical history and see if that's appropriate for you, but usually a little pinch of salt should not be enough to overtax the kidneys or, really cause an extreme amount of water retention. But if you struggle with that on a regular basis, you might want to reconsider this recommendation. The next thing I want you to think about is what you're putting in your body for a fuel source. When your body is having to fight an infection, you are working overtime and expending a lot of energy to fight that bacterial or viral or fungal infection. So be aware of the fuel sources that you're giving your body in order to do those things. So the most readily available source of energy is glucose, and that usually comes from carbohydrates, in the easiest format anyway. And so with that, you want to be aware of the type of carbohydrates you're kind of craving during that time, because your body might give you the signals that it needs more. So adding a chocolate bar is probably not as good as adding another vegetable to your day. So just be aware of the quality of carbohydrates you have, because you want to stay away from the peaks and valleys of that blood sugar response. You want to try to keep it as level as possible and available as possible, so your body always has good fuel sources readily at their fingertips, okay? The next thing I want you to think about is cardiorespiratory demand. So if you like to work out frequently, and typically you're doing more of high intensity interval training or cardio-based work or metabolic conditioning based work, you may want to be aware that if your respiratory system is really under excessive load with day-to-day activity because it's fighting this infection, you may want to scale that down. Okay, because that's really going to require this area to utilize its energy reserves for your performance, not necessarily to fight your infection. Now, activity in general when you are sick is kind of a slippery slope. Some activity is good and it will boost the immune system, but if you go too far or too fast, sometimes you can set yourself back. So having that connection with yourself and your awareness to yourself so you can make good decisions in the moment is really important. Or modify what you're doing. Maybe go into a little bit more of a strength-based activities for the week, or however many days you need to, in order to reduce the strain on the cardiorespiratory system, but still allow your body to produce endorphins and all those other wonderful chemical benefits of working out. So those are just some of the things we want you to consider. Now in this post, we're going to actually tag a really cool soup recipe that's usually intended for more of those respiratory, sinus, viral and bacterial kind of infections that happen around this time of year. It tries to spark not only boosting your immune system, but as well some of the drainage of those systems that can be really hard to get to. So if you can, consider this. But just remember, I don't know your medical history and I don't know your diet sensitivities, but I like the basic components of this soup because I think you can modify it whether you're on, let's say, a low carb or a keto-based lifestyle, or if you're more vegetarian or vegan, you can really kind of bounce this either way, but still keep the quality components that are necessary to boost that immune system. So you'll see the recipe attached in this post, but just know the base that I use for my family, I actually use a chicken stock. I do half chicken stock and then I do half bone broth. There's a lot of wonderful minerals and nutrients in bone broth that can really help give yourself fuel during this time when you're expending more energy fighting that infection. In addition, there's jalapenos in there, there's amazing spices, and there's lots of rosemary, which is amazing for your immune system. So just some things to consider. You can also substitute in any plant-based protein if you would like, or you can add traditional meat-based protein if you would like. We usually add a pulled chicken, you know, like a rotisserie chicken. We add that in there, and then we add a bunch of vegetables so that we give ourselves those good carbohydrates, and then we're still eating this yummy, yummy soup that's going to be draining our sinuses. So if you like spicy, you can scale it pretty hot if you want to, but if you like to scale it down with mild, you can also even add rice to it. So lots and lots of ways to play with this. Just know it's available and out there, especially in this season if you need a little bit of pick-me-up. All right, if you have more questions, let us know, but we love you more than you know. Stay safe in this weather. Take good care of yourself, whether you're in the hole and sick or whether you're feeling good, stay good, all right? Have a great week, everybody.